Hey guys, so I realized that my last, there's a bub here that you just saw his foot flying in the air and you probably hear his tablet. But I realized in my last video I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Brittany, and this is, down here is Anthony, but I don't think I've ever used his real name unless I absolutely had to, for appointments, paperwork. Even when he gets in trouble, I call him Bub. But anyways, so video I've been wanting, when I thought about doing YouTube, a video I wanted to do was all about his autism. So today's video is just all about Bub and all about autism and something that's really important to me. I think it should be talked about and accepted, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It makes Bub very unique, and it is challenging for sure, but I don't know if I would change it. I watched a video. There's a channel called Fathering Autism that if you're interested in more videos about autism, that's a good channel to watch. But they were on a live video and somebody asked if they could change and make their child neurotypical, which basically just means mentally, neurologically normal, if they would. And they said they wouldn't. And I think I have to agree. Yo, that tablet is so loud, kid.
Goodbye.
I hope I can even hear. I hope this video doesn't turn out crappy because this thing is so loud. But, if I left him in the living room by himself, though, he would probably destroy it. This is my bedroom. But I don't think I would change his autism. I think there are things pertaining to his autism that I would definitely make better or easier for everyone, including him. But I'll get into that. So, I was born 35 weeks on the dot, exactly 5 weeks early. His due date was January 18th. He was born on December 14th, 2014. As far as being a premature child, he was almost 7 pounds and pretty much healthy. He had oxygen, for the first day maybe, but he was pretty healthy. He was in not even a NICU. It was just a special nursery for needy babies. They don't even have a NICU at the hospital he was born at. And I really didn't, looking back now and knowing what I know about autism, more than I already did know, I guess there are certain things from when he was a baby that stands out a little bit, but really he was a typical baby. Developmentally, he didn't hit his milestones on time. He didn't walk until he was 14 months. But food-wise, he ate, he did formula, and then we do rice bottles. Some people don't like rice bottles, but I did rice bottles. And then, baby food and oatmeal, all that. So when he was about 10 months old, he was evaluated for therapy the first time, and he crawled with his hands closed and he crawled with fists, which now looking back on it, it was probably a sensory thing. But he was in therapy for only about a month for that, and then he turned 1. Everything's fine. Around 15 months, I kind of started noticing that maybe he wasn't a typical kid. I kind of started Googling, and everybody says you shouldn't Google things medically, but I Googled and looked up, early signs and symptoms or early, things for autism, and I kind of had a hint about it, but I really didn't mention it to anybody. He had special instruction, which is play-based type therapy, and occupational therapy around 15 or 16 months. And it wasn't really a concern for his therapist or anything. I kind of just had this thought, but nothing was confirmed. And then his 18-month appointment, you have this like survey you take about your kid. It's like, I think they're called the M chats or something. And it's kind of like a yes or no questionnaire. Like, does your kid do this? Does he do this? Does he do this? And a lot of them I had to answer no, because there wasn't enough instances where he did it where I could confidently say yes, he knows how to do those things. So you take the quiz, you go in for your appointment, the doctor looks them over before he sees you and all of that. Well, our pediatrician is the best. I don't think I'll ever switch unless I literally live too far for me to make the drive out to him. And I brought it up flat out to him, and I said, you know, a lot of these questions, I can't confidently say yes. I've been reading up, I see some signs of autism, blah, blah, blah. Now, he has a special needs child himself, so as a parent, he like has, you know, not just a doctor's point of view, and he agreed, which I feel for those parents who can't get a doctor to listen to them. And I see on social media people in different states and people, all that, you know, different pediatricians, different states, places, you know, even, you know, Canada, different countries, where they can't get a doctor to confirm, or they can't get a diagnosis, so the doctor blows them off and thinks they're exaggerating, or, you know, or they can't get in to see someone to make a diagnosis. And that must be really hard, because I have it real lucky. Like, his doctor flat out was like, I totally, you know, I agree with you. I think there's something, you know, to be checked out there. He called a developmental pediatrician, a neurologist, and the very next day they were calling me, and they had an appointment that next week, which it was either that day, it was in June, or I had to wait until November. So obviously I took the June appointment. And that's another thing, like I see on social media people are waiting 6 months, 2 years even, for an appointment with a specialist just to get evaluated. And it's sad, because I can only imagine like the struggle of waiting, because you really need the diagnosis to get further. Like, a diagnosis just written on a piece of paper gets you way more than just, you know, a suspicion. They need that diagnosis to get services and the insurance to cover things, and yeah. He was diagnosed with autism on June 23rd, 2016 at pretty much 18 months old. He was only a week over 18 months old. The neurologist, it was like a 3-hour appointment. The neurologist looked like, you know, studied him behind the scenes, like one of those like one-way mirror glass things, and asked a lot of questions and all that, and basically said like she could confidently diagnose him now. Now, most kids and most insurances don't accept a diagnosis under 2, so she's like, well, I can diagnose him now, or he can come back at 2, but I don't think anything's going to change enough in his life or in his, you know, brain that's going to make me change my mind or change his diagnosis. I said, well, let's just do it now. I mean, we were going back when he was 2 regardless, but I was like, let's just get the diagnosis so that it's on the paper, and, you know, things can speed along for therapies. Now, at this time, he was still getting OT and special instruction at home through the state's early intervention. Most states have early intervention programs. So I don't know. There's a lot of parents, you know, it's hard for them to accept their kids have autism or any kind of diagnosis of any sort. But for me, it really didn't bother me. Like, I already had it in my head that he was autistic, and it didn't change anything in my opinion. I was just happy we got a diagnosis so that I can flat out be like, yes, he has autism, like, what do we do now? But there are a lot of parents who just, it's hard for them to accept. And I mean, every family is different, so I get that. For me though, it didn't bother me at all. Like, I mean, it is what it was. It's not like I could change it, and what am I gonna do? Like, sell him to somebody? Be like, I can't deal with it? No, it's not how it works. So, and we just continued with our early intervention. We added speech therapy around October of 2016, right before, a few months before he turned 2. You want a therapist that connects with your child, and the first speech therapist we had was not qualified to work with small children. He cried every time she showed up at the house, and after about 5 weeks of me just trying to struggle and push through it, it just wasn't happening. Like, I had to tell my caseworker or service coordinator, you know, hey, we need somebody else. I feel bad. I don't want to fire her, but it's just not working. Like, we're not getting anything done. He's running away. And she flat out, the speech therapist he had was talking about, oh, you know, I work with, you know, adults. I work with older kids. But I read in a book. Like, that's not, I could read a book. So that was the struggle. Then we got an amazing speech therapist who unfortunately only saw him for about 3 months, because she got a new job and was trying to keep, she got a new job at a different speech therapy company and was trying to keep both jobs, but they wouldn't let her. So unfortunately we had to part ways with her, which was hard because he sat down and played with her the first day she came. He clicked with her. It was amazing. I think things would be different for him had he been able to keep her. Early intervention goes until 3, by the way. So he started at around 15 months, and then at 3 he graduates out into a higher kid program, or an older kid program. So we continued with our therapy. We had speech, and then we added a behavioral therapy. So that just continued, and then when he turned 3, he goes into the intermediate unit, which technically means preschool. However, we weren't ready for him to go, and I don't think he was ready to go. So we kept him home, and that's kind of where we are today. He's almost 3.5. So currently, he has therapy, with multiple therapies every day of the week. So Mondays he has speech therapy and a physical therapy at a location. Tuesdays he has a therapy with like the teacher at the preschool. We were doing home therapy, but he likes to like check out of sessions and likes to lay on the couch and do nothing. So we moved it to the office, but he is still one-on-one. He is not in the classroom. Wednesdays he has occupational therapy at home, and then he goes to a feeding therapy, which we started that back in September of last year. Thursdays he has double speech therapy at a location, and then speech therapy through IU, which is like the school program. He was doing pool therapy for speech, but we switched to an office session. Fridays he has, again, feeding therapy, and then he has PT at home. It sounds like a busy schedule, but in reality, each Mondays he's only got therapy for an hour. Tuesday's only a half an hour. Wednesday is about an hour and 45 minutes. Not straight, those are obviously split. Thursdays he only has an hour. Fridays it's about an hour and 45 minutes. So it is split. It seems like a lot, but it keeps him on a routine. So basically, autism is a spectrum. That's why it's called autism spectrum disorder. So him personally, he has major sensory issues. That's what he works on mainly with occupational therapy. He doesn't like touching things. He doesn't like being dirty. He doesn't like getting his hands in anything. Wet textures, even some dry textures like sand and stuff, it freaks him out. Play-Doh, any kind of clay, basically anything a typical 3-year-old boy would get into, even girls too, but any typical child that will get dirty, he's not one of them, which kind of is okay to me because I don't like dirty children. I hate muddy, just not my thing. So sensory wise, a lot of oral sensory. He only eats 3 foods currently. It fluctuates and, you know, bounces up and down. He used to eat pretty much anything you gave him until about 18 months, and then like shut it off. Didn't want anything. Now he gets Pediasure twice a day. That started around 18 months, basically to get some nutrients. He doesn't eat almost anything. He eats once a day, and if he eats once a day, we're content. We, of course, would like him to eat twice a day, and it would be amazing if he ate 3 times a day. I don't think in his entire life, besides, you know, before he stopped eating food regularly, I don't think he's eaten 3 times. There are periods of time, we did go through a spell 2-3 weeks ago where he went almost a week without eating anything. I supplement, he has protein powder, he has Pediasure. It's difficult because people who don't, you know, have kids on the spectrum or understand, or around kids on the spectrum, they say, you know, just feed them. Just, you know, they'll eat if they're hungry, but that's not the case with autism. I don't think he knows what hunger is. I don't think he associates even a grumbling in his stomach with, oh, I need to eat, because he loves drinking milk, and I think that feeling can be satisfied with milk. He always would prefer a beverage over food. We are back, you know, in an upswing recently with him eating. But as I was saying, he only eats 3 foods right now, and the only 3 foods he'll eat are Taco Bell cheesy roll-ups. Don't try to make him homemade quesadilla. It's not going to work. Pizza. Don't try to give him frozen pizza or homemade pizza. That's not going to work. It has to be takeout, delivery. And mac and cheese. And again, it has to be from a place called Noodles and Company. It's specific, and luckily his dad works there, and we can get that for pretty much free, because we would be broke trying to feed him, because everything he wants is outside of the home, which makes it very difficult because we have to make a special trip sometimes to get him food, even if we're not leaving the house that day, because he won't eat anything at home. He doesn't snack. He literally, he wakes up, he drinks his milk, and he will eat just usually once, sometimes twice, but only one of those 3 foods. He doesn't eat cereal, he doesn't eat crackers, candy, chips, cookies, nothing. He eats no types of snacks. Sorry guys, my camera died. It is later on, and I've contacts in now, so like half this video is going to be me in my glasses, the other half is not. So yeah, so half this video is going to be me in my glasses, and then the other half is going to be me without my glasses. But me being stupid, I put on the same shirt that I filmed the first half of the video in, forgetting that I don't have my glasses on. So it still looks different. So yeah, Bub does not eat any types of snacks. He's still with me. You can probably hear him. He does not eat any types of snacks. Just those 3 foods are the only 3 foods he eats. So it does make it a challenge, you know, and I do have to still hand feed him. He does not hold utensils. He does not use utensils. I feed him every meal, every time he eats. So that can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's nice because most of the time he eats before or after we eat dinner, so it's not usually interrupting my meal time. But if we do go out to eat, sometimes, you know, I eat second or last, but it is what it is. He's very particular also about his drinks. He only drinks water, apple juice, and milk at home, and they have to be in the same cups. Water is a little bit more lenient because he does know what water bottles are, but yeah, his juice is specific, and his specific juice cups, and his milk is for sure. He has 3 of the same cups, 2 of the same color, 1 of a different color, but those are his milk cups. He does not drink out of any other cups. He was in the hospital about almost a year ago for dehydration, and it was a struggle. They needed him to eat or drink. I told him he wasn't going to eat, but they needed him to at least drink, and it was a struggle because it wasn't his milk cups, and it's an unfamiliar place with an unfamiliar cup. Like when we go places, We don't travel overnight often, usually just to see my dad who lives out of state, but other than that we don't travel out of state, or we don't travel overnight unless we're going on like a random trip or vacation. But I have to bring all of his cups, you know, regular cups or throwaway cups, you know, just don't work for him. So it's really hard. I can't make him. I've thought about making him smoothies, I've thought about making him milkshakes, and he's so particular about how it looks, how it tastes, the cup it's in. I don't want to mess with what he has going, and that's a big thing. You don't want to mess with their food or their drinks because they get suspicious, and if the kids are super sensory oriented or super visual, which Bub is very visual and very sensory oriented, if you mess with their food and they know, they don't trust you. And trust is a big thing, especially for feeding, and that's what we're in feeding therapy for, is to work on just getting him to try other foods, getting him to touch other foods, getting him to touch anything texture wise. Feeding is the one thing, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, things that I would change to make his life easier. Feeding is one of them. 110%. I would wish. There are some kids, you know, autism spectrum. There are kids with autism that constantly eat, and you have to pretty much hide food, lock up food, you know, keep them out of the refrigerator. And then there's kids that don't eat anything, and he's on that end. Do I want him to engorge himself? No, because that would be difficult too, saying no to food. But I do wish he ate at least a few more foods. Even if it was still only once a day, I wish he ate a few more options, because I could give him more things in that one meal. He used to eat chicken nuggets, not anymore. He used to eat a lot of things, and it's hard because it's like a light switch. You know, one day he eats it, the next day he doesn't. He drank, you know, 2 of the little tubs of drinkable yogurt one day. The very next day, I went to give it to him, and he looked at me like I was poisoning him, and he refused it. It's a struggle. But, you know, we're used to it. Unfortunately, that's how it's been for a long time. I mean, his eating issues started almost a year and a half. No, almost 2 years ago now. It'll be about June, July of 2016 is when it started, and now, yep, it'll be almost 2 years. So we're used to his struggles with eating. We know how to manage it. I work my entire weekly schedule of, you know, what I do and where I go based off of what he's eating that day. I try not to give him the same thing too many days in a row. Today, for example, I went to the mall to get him his favorite mac and cheese because his dad works late and won't be able to bring it for him. Tomorrow, usually, today's Tuesday, usually, you know, tomorrow on Wednesdays I take him to the mall because one of his therapies is close to the mall. But I had other things to do. So kind of like I base my schedule of what I have to do around what he's going to eat, just to make sure he doesn't eat the same thing too many days in a row, because he does get sick of foods. When we get sick of foods, we eat something else. When he gets sick of foods, he eats nothing. So I try to keep him from getting sick of things. This video is already, like, I already edited the first half of it, and now this ending is going to make it probably 20 minutes long. So this will be part 1 of his autism journey video, or his autism up until now video. The second part probably won't be as long. Hopefully, I talk a lot, but hopefully it won't be as long, and I'll talk about his, you know, other delays and other things I wish I could change for him, and kind of where we're headed towards maybe the future and things like that. So yeah, so I will see you, hopefully not in the same exact shirt, but I will see you for part 2 of this video, hopefully soon. Alright, bye guys.